Alright, cheesers, so in this video, I'm going to go over, we got the OG Mount Packer race, which is kind of funny. I decided that I had to show this because it was fitting, right? Race the Mount Packer H5 today, so I figured might as well just watch Mount Packer and Halo 4 and see how close it was. Obviously not exactly the same. I mean, you could tell there's definitely some changes and slaunch like resurfacing it and stuff, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but you can definitely tell a lot of the similarities. A lot of it's pretty close, so we'll take a look at it throughout this video. So in this one, I want to talk about some different updates from my end. So I'm going to get through the big ones right away and just like not beat around the bush too much. So first off, I'm not doing the videos for the doubleheader. If it wasn't obvious from like the music and Snowy Scrubs, I was pretty close to not doing it for that, and then for the doubleheader, I'm absolutely not, because it was just as bad, if not worse. So I haven't been having the greatest time in the TRS stage because it's not what it was at all. So this H4 TRS, I really enjoyed H4 TRS. The reason, well, there's a few reasons why, but I'll go through them, and I'll go through the most important ones, which are like the differences between H4 and H5 TRS, and like why those differences feed into why I enjoy H4 TRS and remember it so fondly, and why it's the opposite for H5 and why I haven't been having a lot of fun so far. So I gotta give some context to it. First off, I'll say I don't think the first two races were that bad. I don't think the first two races were that bad at all. It's totally fine. Decent races. Those tracks were set up pretty well. I like how wide open they are, or they were. I like how the collisions were set up on those tracks, and that's something. Okay, this is comedy. That's something I'll talk about a decent amount throughout this video. Is like collision setup, and that's a big reason why I haven't been enjoying the last few. But the first couple tracks were decent layouts, and the collisions were set up fairly well, and like not too. They weren't too much. They weren't too much. They felt like the right amount of collision for like a 16 driver lobby. It didn't feel like it was overdone. It was like, okay, this is about right. This is about how much collision we should have. It was still a decent amount. It was still probably more than we would have in an average Halo 4 TRS race, which again I'll get to that. But not too much. So the last few races, Snowy Scrubs, the Atlas track, and Mount Packer, I just feel like the collisions have not been set up in a way that makes the racing very fun. And it's not just, I'm not going to completely say it's the tracks, because it's not. As always, there's multiple factors into this, and like the big ones to me are the way the tracks are designed, or specifically the way the collisions are set up on the tracks, because again, I don't think the last three tracks are bad layouts entirely. I actually, for the most part, like all of them. It's just specifically the collision zones that I'm not a big fan of. And the other big factors, so like H5 physics are notoriously very cheesy and very conky. So that's obviously a big factor. And so we've got that, and then we've got 16 lobbies, right? I mean, it's been like 16 drivers, like I think pretty much every race throughout TRS. Whereas, as you can see in this Halo 4 race, what do we have here? Like 8 or 9? And I would say that would be like the majority of these Halo 4 TRS races would be honestly like between 6 to 8 people. And sometimes, sometimes we would have like up to 10, but most of the time it was just like 6 to 8, maybe like 10, maybe 12 on a good day. And that's how many people we had. And I genuinely think that the H5 physics, the way the collisions are set up, and the 16, honestly the 16 drivers might be like the biggest factor. Low key, it might be the biggest factor. I think that these three things are making TRS and H5 like kind of an abomination of what it was in Halo 4. Honestly, I think it's that bad. What am I pointing out here? What the fuck? What am I looking at? I'm probably going on a rant. I don't remember this video. That's funny. So I actually just lost my train of thought because of that. Okay, so let's go through like specifics with those, like why I think that they're like the big factors, and why I think they're contributing to me being really disappointed with H5 TRS compared to H4 TRS. So let's start with 16 because I think it's the biggest factor. It's just too many. Honestly, since the beginning of this season, I've been saying I don't like 16 lobbies. I really don't. I think that 12 is like the sweet spot. And honestly, I would be in favor of doing divisions even, and like splitting it up that much if you wanted to, and like doing grand finals or whatever. Even for each fucking stage, could do like a finale where you get like the top finishers or whatever, something like that. I've even been saying that since the beginning of the season. I just think 16 is shit. And I think that a lot of these tracks, while I'll go over issues that I have with the tracks or have with the game, I genuinely think that a lot of it would become a lot more enjoyable if it just wasn't 16. It's just too many, and the lobbies just get ridiculous. And it's not just racing, too. It's not just racing. It's also like communication and trying to listen and not get a fucking headache. Those things also are not helped by having, everybody in one party. So yeah, I think that 16 drivers is terrible. I've thought that for a while. I don't get the same excitement that other people do. I can hear it. When there's 16 people, I can hear it. Optics, you're like, oh yeah, 16 people. Yeah, we got 16. No, I don't like it anymore. not calling you out. I'm just joking. But it used to be fun. I don't find it fun anymore. I think the most enjoyable racing happens with like 10 to 12. That's just my personal opinion. I'm sure some people will disagree, but that's how I find it out. Or that's how I find it to be. Now, let's go on to the next one, because I feel like I've said the main things with 16 drivers and why I don't like it, why I think it contributes to it. We just saw a collision. That's a perfect segue. Let's talk about the collisions. So, and again, they're all interconnected. So, one of the byproducts, right, of not having as many people in the lobby with these H4 lobbies, and it doesn't take a genius to figure this out, right? You're not going to have as many collisions. Right? With 16 people, and with the way the tracks are designed in Halo 5, and with the way these collisions have been, you're going to have so many more collisions. Obviously, you have more drivers on track. There's just higher odds for collisions at like all times. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. That's not a good thing. And I think some people may have, like, with their tracks or whatever. I'm specifically calling out Roman with Temple of Alice, but maybe some other ones too. I think maybe have like focused on like the collision aspect like too much. Again, I think the first two tracks, and I don't even think Snowy Scrubs would be that bad with like an 8 to 12 lobby like we used to have. I actually think Snowy Scrubs would be pretty fucking awesome. I really liked the heat races. The heat races were actually really fun. And in general, I've enjoyed the heat races way more than the mains in this stage. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody else agreed with that. I think the heat races for these last few tracks that I've really not been enjoying have actually been a pretty good time. And I think that it leans into my my theory that the lobby size is a big part of the issue. So anyways, collisions. Again, all interconnected with 16 people, you're obviously going to have a lot more collisions. And is that a good thing? No. I will just straight up say it. I don't think so. What made collisions interesting and fun in H4 TRS, and again, you can disagree with this if you want. I'm just going over my opinions in this video. But what made it interesting and what made it fun is that they wouldn't happen all the time, right? That is what it was. Not that you would have 8-car pileups every fucking lap. Like, that's just AIDS. That's just terrible. Like, it's just awful. When it was like this race, we just watched this race. How many collisions did we witness? Can maybe count it up on I should have actually counted. Somebody go back and count. It wasn't that many. You could maybe count it on one fucking hand. It really wasn't that many. But what you probably noticed though, is that the impact of the collisions was raised a lot, right? The collisions, there weren't as many, but because of that, they had a much bigger impact. When the collisions happened, you fucking felt it. Whereas in these H5 races, you'll get like in 4 collisions in a fucking lap sometimes, and you'll just be like, all right, well, that's how it goes. That's how it is. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even care. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but it's gotten to the point where like the collision novelty has like worn off because it's just so fucking frequent that it's just not enjoyable to me. Every once in a while, one of those like really conky ones will happen and it'll be kind of funny, but most of the time it's just like aggravating. Whereas in Halo 4 TRS, with these lobby sizes and the game and what yada yada yada, the way the collision zones were designed, etc., it was actually enjoyable because the collisions would not happen every lap, right? They would not happen every lap, and when they did happen, their impact was generally pretty strong, and their impact was felt. Like, if somebody crashes out in the lead, gets collisioned out in the lead in H5 TRS, they could be back in the lead in a lap. Depending on how the collisions go, they could be back in the lead in a lap. That would not happen in H4 TRS, or at least like very rarely would that happen. That would not be a frequent occurrence, If somebody got collisioned in the lead in H4 TRS, they would have to fucking claw their way back and probably hope for some other collisions to happen, for them to be able to completely get their way back up. You know, like it's not like in H5 where it happens so frequently to the point where like we can't even, oh, that sucks for Armada, to the point where it's like we can't even calculate how much of an effect that they have on certain people because they just happen to fucking everybody and they happen so constantly. It's just terrible. It's much better, I think, when the collisions are fewer and far between and when their impact is much greater. I think that makes for more interesting races and more fun events, because, you know, even if you get hit with a really bad collision and it like kind of fucks you're on like a podium or something, at least it just happens like once or maybe twice. It's not like, oh, I just got collisioned. Oh, this person ran into me. This person ran into me. Now I'm in a 6-car pileup. Now I'm in a head-on collision because we're racing Temple of Atlas. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to get another one. And then to end off this lap, somebody's going to, you know, decide to go the opposite direction, head on me here. Like, this is great. When I rejoin after the head-on collision, I'm going to get collided again. You know what I mean? It's just so much that it's like, it doesn't even, the effect isn't even there. It's just, it happens in these races fucking ad nauseum to the point where it's like the collisions don't have fucking meaning anymore. Obviously they do, but they happen so fucking frequently to the point where, again, it's like hard to quantify it. Like you spectate, hell, just like spectating these Mount Packer motos that we're watching in the background. Like when Slaunch got cheesed last moto, even if you weren't really paying attention, you could fucking feel it. You could fucking feel the impact that collision had on his race, even if you weren't really paying attention. Whereas you could like skip to any point in the Snowy Scrubs video and you'd be like, oh yeah, that person just got destroyed. That person just got, you know, that person got cheesed. Oh, we got like 6 cheesers right here. We got these guys got involved. You know what I mean? You could just skip to any random point. There'd be a fucking collision. I guarantee it. I guarantee if you skip to any random point in the Snowy Scrubs video, there'd more often be a collision going on than not. And that was not the case. That was not the case. All right. Part of what made, I'm getting to my point. Part of what made TRS so much fun and so enjoyable, and I'm sure I need like Slaunch, I need like Armada, you know, unfortunately Sector's not here, but I need you know, these people that have also you know, done a lot of Halo 4 TRS and also like done a little bit of this H5 TRS, right? Like for the people that have mostly just done H5, I don't want to hear from you on this, because you don't have the experience. But for like Slaunch and Armada, I would definitely love to, because I'm sure you guys will watch, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, because I'm sure you agree on some things, disagree on other things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they both agree with my general sentiment, which is that the racing on TRS and Halo 4 was better, and the collisions were a lot more enjoyable because of the fact that they were fewer and far between, and they also like had greater impact because of that. I think that they both would agree with those statements. Those are like the main takeaways from this video, and I think those are hard to disagree with, and I'm getting to like my main point here. This is a big reason, and again, everything's interconnected, but this is a big reason why I haven't enjoyed these last few TRS races. Battles. You could actually have battles. In these Halo 4 TRS or fucking Sector, dude, Jesus. You could actually have battles in these races. I don't know about anybody else, and I can hear from the H5 people here now, okay? This isn't like an experience thing. You guys can comment on this now too. I'd love to hear it. I genuinely would. If you agree with me on this or not, I'd love to hear any feedback and all. I really am genuinely curious, because I don't know if I'm I'm gonna sound like one of those fucking does anybody else feel Reddit posts right now saying this, but I don't know what the general consensus is, so I'd be willing to hear all types of feedback. But yeah, so like racing battles, I feel like I've had no battles. I feel like I go motos without having battles with people, and that's what makes racing fun. Okay, obviously I like winning, I like competing, I like improving and shit like that. Part of the fun of racing though is battling and getting like a sick pass, a nice overtake. I feel like there's like no opportunities for it. Like, because every time I have a chance to have a battle with somebody, collision, boom, off the track. Whether it's me or them, it just happens every fucking lap, and it's just nuts. It just drives me crazy. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. I'm actually kind of close in speed with this person. Let's kind of weigh against each other here. Let's see how close we are. Let's see how we can battle. Nope. Collision. Oh, another one. Oh, yeah. I just got head on too. Oh, yeah, and then this person put me in a rock. Sick. You know what I mean? Like, I can't fucking battle, and it drives me nuts, because in general, that's the main thing that I think is fun about racing. More so than all these other factors. the main thing that I think is fun is when you have like a really good battle with somebody and make like a really good pass, or even get past. Just having a really good fucking battle. That's what keeps me coming back. That's what I think's fun about racing in general. That's like the main thing that I think is really fun. You know what I mean? If it weren't for battles, I'd just go fucking do time trials. Why not? So that's what I think is really enjoyable, and I think that with these 16 lobbies and with the collisions and with Halo 5 physics, all these things combined, it just does not create for good battles. You know what I mean? Like anytime I feel like I'm gonna have a decent battle, or like a decent little pack, and we're gonna go at it, it just dissipates immediately. There's just a collision, there's some cheese, and it's just gone. Whereas again, those first two tracks, Volition and Stonehenge, those I actually thought weren't that bad. I thought those were done pretty well. You could actually, I feel like I did have a few battles in those tracks, even in the motos. I thought those were done very, very well for Halo 5 and like 16 lobbies in mind. I thought those tracks were great. I actually enjoyed those. Again, I'm ranting in this video. I gotta go over. I didn't even hate those first two races. The way I said it was so passive aggressive. They were all right. They were all right. I had some fun. I feel like I haven't had any fun in the last three. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, so another one, the big one, just like not being able to have battles. Anytime it feels like we're gonna have a battle, some collision, it's just gone immediately. Whereas that wasn't always the case in Halo 4 because there weren't always 16 lobbies, and the collisions, the tracks weren't always designed like that, and they'd be fewer and far between, and you could actually get some fucking battles. That was part of what made TRS fun. It wasn't just the collisions. Here we go, slaunch, boom. He just got destroyed again. God damn it. But it wasn't just that. Those collisions, and that's the thing too. You could use collisions strategically, like right there. Not only did other people, I probably, because I had the better like reaction to that collision right there, I probably gained quite a bit on slaunch. And you could do that. You could do that in H4 TRS, right? You could try to like collision and try to go for it, play that game of chicken, and actually like win out on those collisions and make gains because of it. That was cool. Halo 5, can you really do that? No, not a whole lot, because you'll get in a collision and maybe you'll gain a little bit, but then you'll get fucking collided right after. Again, it's just too much. Just the effect, it's just lessened so much. You just can't really do it. And it's just really frustrating. So those are the main points. I guess I haven't really delved into one. I gotta take a drink. There's one that Justin and I were trolling so hard. There was one there's one that I haven't really gone over completely so far. I'm guessing that was the end of the race. Yeah. There's one that I haven't really gone over completely so far. I don't know what just happened, by the way. I don't know what that was all about. And it's the collision design on the tracks. Okay, so Snowy Scrubs. I'm not going to fault Snowy Scrubs for this. Again, Halo 4, like what we were racing, what it was made for, I think Snowy Scrubs collision, I'm sure it'll surprise some of you to hear me say this. It was fine. It was fine. Maybe I should pull it up. Try to find Snowy Scrubs. It was fine. With the lobbies that we had and the game, it was totally fine. Now, obviously, with 16 people, it was not. And, you know, what could Slaunch have done about that? You know, maybe getting rid of the snowman would have been a good choice. Maybe getting rid of the snowman would have helped and would have made that a little more enjoyable. I mean, if you don't want to like completely change the track, that's the only thing I could think of. Oh, here we go. Snowy Scrubs. How about that? I didn't even have this planned, but there we go. But yeah, maybe getting rid of the snowman would have been a good decision. At the same time, it's like an iconic part of the track, so I can get not wanting to remove it. But maybe for the H5 race, maybe it would have been a good decision. Temple of Atlas. Temple of Atlas is the biggest offender. Sorry, Roman, I'm going off. The head-on collisions are shit. I think TRS is way better off without the head-on collisions, because part of the TRS rules, right, is that again, and this goes with like having battles, right? So if you do fucking DRL or whatever, you know, people are just conking. You're not really going to have too many battles in there either, because it's just going to be wrecking. But in TRS, that wasn't always the case. In TRS, we still tried to have like the clean racing on track, but the collisions was where you could get a little dirty and where you could try to plan it out, right? So that was like what made it cool. Is like, all right, you guys want some trolling? Well, here we go. Here's a way to do the trolling where it's not like stupid, and where we can still like have some battles on track and have some interesting races. And I think that it worked out pretty well. For H4. Now H5, that is obviously not the case, and part of it is because of specifically on Temple of Atlas, these head-on collisions. I don't think the head-on collisions are very good, because it's like too far over into that like troll territory, where you could just like be stupid with it, if that makes sense. Like, you can only control who you're trying to collide with so much with the normal like intersections, but with the head-ons, you have full control if you want to just fucking conk somebody every time and just ruin their race. Not saying that anybody did that, because nobody did, but you could do that. I think that's pretty lame. I think that creates some pretty like lame situations where people could just like be stupid with it, and it could just it's just not the same as like getting hit in the intersection. Like, if you get hit in the intersections, it's like, whatever. But if somebody is just like, my race is chalked, I'm just gonna head on you because I don't like you or something like that, or because they're not paying attention or whatever, it's just kind of fucking lame. I'm not a big fan of them. Not a big fan of the head-ons. I think that if there was a way to design the track without them, it would be a lot more enjoyable. If the track had like normal intersection collision zones. I think that normal intersection, experimenting, I'm generally for experimenting, but I don't think this was a good experiment. I think that TRS is best raced with those normal intersection collision zones like we had multiple of on Stonehenge and Volition. I just think it works better. I think the head-ons are kind of lame. You know what I mean? I think the obstacles in TRS should generally be the track, except for when you're going through those intersections. You shouldn't have to worry about somebody driving straight towards you, right? In general, you shouldn't have to worry about that. So again, I'd be interested to hear thoughts on that. Personally, I'm a big against that. I don't like the head-ons at all. I think it's pretty lame. So yeah, that's a big problem with Temple of Atlas, and that's like the biggest thing for that one, honestly, for me, is just the head-ons. Like, the rest of it was fine. If there was a way to cheese the track without the head-ons, I think it'd actually be pretty good, but I really did not enjoy it because of the head-ons. I thought that shit was pretty lame. So, and then going into the last one, so the Mount Packer remake, and there's a little bit of that with the Mount Packer one. So obviously Slaunch like changed up the layout a little bit. It's a little bit different, and it's unfortunate that he did, because honestly, after racing, I liked it at first, like when I was running practice laps on it, but after racing it, I think if there was a way, maybe it was a little too difficult, but if there was a way to do like the Halo 4 layout or something closer to the Halo 4 layout, oh my god, Justin. I honestly think I think the collisions were like set up better and for like racing and battles better on the Halo 4 version. And we saw that, like we just watched it, right? We're watching Snowy Scrubs now, but we just watched Mount Packer. I think you could see in that original version that the collisions were a lot more like fair. I don't know what the right word to look for is. They weren't like as silly cheesy, right? The collision on the new Mount Packer was like pretty head-on, right? It was basically like head-on, like Temple of Atlas. Not as bad. It's not like Temple of Atlas where there's like a literal straightaway where you could literally be playing a game of chicken with somebody on a straightaway. I know there's a jump in the middle, Roman. I know there's a jump in the middle. Yeah, point it out. Predicting the comments here. So I know that. So it was a little bit better because of the fact that there like wasn't the visibility, so it wasn't like Temple of Atlas where you could just like cheese somebody on purpose. It was a little more like that random TRS cheese that we're used to, but it was still like pretty head-on collision, and it was still definitely like not my favorite collision of the season. So yeah, that being said, majority of the and this goes for like all the tracks, majority of the tracks I enjoy. I actually think the tracks in general are pretty good. It's mostly just the collision zones that I think could have used some work on these last three, and I think could have made the racing a lot more enjoyable. But that being said, don't take it too personal, guys. I don't think it's your fault. It's all interconnected. I genuinely think that if the lobbies weren't 16, they all would have been fine. If we were doing like 8 to 12, I think that's the biggest thing. I think if we were doing 8 to 12, these last three, even with the head-ons that I'm not a big fan of, I think it would have been totally fine. I think Snowy Scrubs would have been totally fine, even with the Snowman. Seriously. Same thing for Packer. I think they all would have been fine. What's the last topic here? So yeah, Cratos is the last track. I'm so exhausted of this. I don't even want to race it at this point. Cratos was supposed to be like the ultra like big cheese. Like this is gonna be the cheese track. This is the one that's like silly, right? But with the way these last three races have gone, I genuinely feel like I've raced 3 Cratoses in a row, and that track has 2 trains. It has 2 literal fucking trains on it, and I genuinely would not be surprised if the races on these last few end up being conkier than Cratos, I swear to Bob, I would not be surprised if they are arguably conkier. We'll see how that prediction ends up going, but I would not be surprised if at least like one of the layouts of Cratos ends up being like a more controlled race. Hell, maybe even two of them. The figure 8 will probably be cheesier, right? The figure 8 will probably be the cheesiest, but the other two layouts have potential. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they end up being less cheesy than these last three. So that's my little prediction there. But yeah, I don't know if people got like well, I'm mainly roasting Roman, but I don't know if they got a little too excited with like the collision cheese, but I think it needed to be reined in a little bit. And a real, I think like for making TRS tracks, if we do them going forward, which honestly I don't think we will. I personally, if somebody else wants to, whatever. I personally have no interest in the H5 TRS series anymore. Unless it was like a division thing with like 10 or 12 like locked, I really don't have interest in it. If we do TRS again, I would much rather go to MCC or even go back to Halo 4, or fuck it, even experiment with Reach. Genuinely, I would rather do one of those things. I have no interest in doing an H5 anymore. Like this stage has totally killed my interest in it, personally. So there's that. But yeah, I mean that's I think 25. I think we got through most of it. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's pretty much most of it. So definitely curious. I'm sure there'll be a lot of hot takes on this one. So I'm definitely curious to hear the hot takes, and also just like the general consensus. Like if you guys rate the stages, rate the stages objectively, and then rate your enjoyment. That is what I want to see. If you made it this far in the video, that's what I want to see. Rate like 0 to 10, right? Your objective rating. Like if you're trying to fucking Dr. Manhattan it from an outside point of view, your rating of the stages, and then like your personal enjoyment. I'll do mine. So objectively, I would say I'll do TRS first. Objectively, it's like a 5. Personally, it's like a 3. I'll give it a 3. As much as I've been ranting in this video, I won't go all the way to 1 because really I did think the first 2 races were not bad. First 2 races I had a positive outlook. I was like, you know what? This actually isn't that bad. This H5 TRS is working out. And then the next 3 tracks came, and holy shit, the tune has changed. If we ended it after the first 2, I would have gave it like an 8. Swear to God, would have gave it like an 8. That just goes to show how much the last 3 have turned it down. So that's what I would do. Like objective, what did I say? Objective like a 5. Personal, I'd give it like a 3. Go-kart, honestly, not that much better. I don't think the go-kart stage was that bad. But I know it's a little torn for some people. Some people enjoyed it more than others or whatever. Objectively, I would give go-kart like a 6 or a 7 maybe, and then like personal enjoyment. Honestly, probably the same. I would say personal enjoyment, I would go like 7. Objective, I would go like 6. I would say. And I won the stage, and I'm not even going a 10 on the personal enjoyment because not every race was great. Go-kart had its own problems too, and I'll fully admit that. But yeah, I'd probably go objective a 6, personal a 7, something like that. So that's my personal ratings. I'd be curious to hear everybody else's. I think that'd be something really interesting to hear going along with the hot takes in this little post doubleheader TRS stage podcast. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And just like one more comment on the so like the reason why I think the first 2 races weren't that bad. Again, 16 lobbies, I do think that's a big issue, but that being said, I do think a big part of it is the track design. Those wide open H5 TRS, the way that those first 2 tracks were designed just worked better, and I would be surprised if most of you don't agree with that. I think most people can probably agree with that. Like racing wise, those wide open tracks with the collision zones that were a little more few and far between, and they actually kind of felt like these H4 races with the collision zones. They actually kind of felt like they had a little more impact. Actually kind of felt like that. We got Snowy Scrubs 102. There we go. So that actually kind of felt like that. Whereas again, these last few races, interesting, I'm at 50 in this video. Weird. These last few races, that was not the case. What was the quote that I came up with when I was thinking about this video in my head before I recorded it? Oh yeah. So Halo 4, right? Halo 4 TRS races, right? Like 80% racing and like 20% collision, right? 80% racing, 20% collision. H5 TRS races, at least these last few, like 80% collision, 20% racing, and that I just don't find that enjoyable. Again, I'll call it out to the OGs, Armada and Slaunch. What do you guys remember? Like, how do you guys remember H4 TRS? Because when I think about it, yeah, I think about the collisions, but that's not the main thing. The main thing that I think about were the sick battles that we had on these tracks and like the crazy races that we've had. I don't think that people dying every lap makes for a crazy race, you know? I think some of these H4 TRS races were really crazy because there was like collisions that came in at such a crucial time. There wasn't a collision for like 8 laps, but then the leader hits a collision and it makes it a close 2x2 battle all the way to the line. Shit like that happened a lot. Holy fuck. What am I looking at? Justin, what the hell? Might have to end the video on that. What the fuck is that? And Jared, look at this! Oh, it's me. It's not Jared, it's me. Oh, it is. It's me and Jared. So we all stopped. We've called a fucking caution to help Justin out. That's hilarious. What the fuck was that? Go back. We're ending the video on that because I'm about to end it anyways. We're ending the video on that. That is amazing. That's a GG right there. Now that is what I like to see. I don't know if it was me or Jared, but whoever dived right here to try to get him out. That's so funny. It's so fucking funny. I think it was Jared. Yeah, it was Jared. Oh man. But yeah, so like Armada and Slaunch, like you guys, what was the big thing? You know what I mean? Because like when I think back to H4 TRS, that's what I'm thinking. Collisions were like a blue shell, right? Collisions were like a blue shell. They'd come in at these crazy moments and bring the battles back and make the race interesting, right? Whereas in what did I say in my Twitch chat today? I said oh yeah, Peggle. I said that H5 TRS racing to me feels like you're trying to play Peggle like blindfolded. That's what it feels like to me. It's just such a shit show. I get no enjoyment out of it. At least these last 3 races. The other 2 were fine. So there you go. There you go. Rant over. So sorry. All right, Brendan, I'll call it out to you. Sorry if I was rude tonight, but I was in a pretty bad mood, and I was also planning on. There's a little confirmation bias. I was expecting these races to go as like annoying as they did for me, and they did, and I was unimpressed. I was like, yep, this is pretty much just like Snowy Scrubs with these 2, and maybe even worse. So yeah, just not very enjoyable. And I miss the battling. I miss the battling aspect of TRS. I miss the racing aspect when you could actually have a fucking race in TRS, when you could compete against somebody, right? And the collisions would be like this crazy thing that sometimes they would come up, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes somebody else would get collided. You guys want to know a little secret? Sometimes you'd go through an entire moto in these H4 TRSs, and guess what? You wouldn't hit a single collision. I swear to God, I know, it's crazy, but I swear, you would go through an entire moto, and you wouldn't hit a single one. And then obviously there's examples like Cratos, right? It's not every race, but in general, I think most tracks were like that. So yeah, I'll leave it up to the feedback now. I've gone through my shit, so now I'm just interested to hear and read whatever everybody else has to say. But yeah, for me personally, I'm looking forward to some oval action. Ovals are fucky, but at least we could probably get, you know, some battles on some laps before a caution on an oval, which in these last few TRS races has not been the case. So yeah, GG's. I hope Justin makes it out of this predicament. And dude, honestly, no, not GG's. Fuck Halo 5, bro. MCC World of Outlaw, that's where it's at. Get fucked, idiots.